So what do you guys want to do for bio?
I think we should do the shuttle project because you have to take into consideration oxygen, food, and water, which we've been learning about all year, especially in ecology, with abiotic factors and biotic factors.
But the habitat project deals with hazardous radiation, so it might be more simple as opposed to doing 3: water, food, and atmosphere.
Well, why don't we just flip an eraser for it? I'll just put a mark on here for this is shuttle and then this is habitat. And you guys say 3. 1 for habitat. And another 1 for habitat.
They probably took it for a
That
reason.
probably seems more fun.
Yeah.
So we'll end up doing that.
Let's do that.
That's good problem to do that.
We've developed an idea of using a space elevator which is connected to a portable platform, most likely going to be placed in the ocean, which can move along with the currents. And from the platform we can have a we can have a wire made out of carbon nanotubes, which is the strongest material that is found so far. But maybe in the future we can develop better technology that can withstand even more tension, but it can actually be a feasible way of developing the wire because it can actually resist the tension that will be forced on it with the atmospheric winds and stuff like that. And so the wire will go up into space, and on the other side of the wire in space it'll have a counterweight which will help keep it in a straight line so that the vehicles, equipment, and humans that will be transported up the elevator, it will be a straight path and it will be more efficient. And from when the equipment and humans and vehicles land at the end of the elevator, they'll have enough momentum to continue going off of it, and they'll be able to reach even places near Jupiter. But even though we don't need to go to Jupiter, we go to Mars, which is even closer. It's in the range of the elevator, so it's a more efficient way of bringing the equipment to build the sustainable habitat there than using sending the equipment on spaceships and a bunch of trips where we could just use an elevator to send it up.
Okay, so for radiation, I have found numerous documents that state how to deal with this and keep the astronauts safe on Mars and keep them from absorbing radiation, getting cancer.
Okay.
So one of the ways is to build a single wall of carbon nanotubes, and this is coated with hydrogen-rich conducting polymer. And so what this does is it soaks in the radiation from the sun because it has an electrical charge and attracts the radiation. And then it's going to convert this radiation into pretty much electricity. And then this electricity is going to then be sent to an energy dissipating terminal, which pretty much stores the electricity, and this electricity can also be used to power the station on Mars.
There are many methods in trying to get oxygen into Mars, but one of them is that we will produce a Mars methane engine and process through a new furnace. And there are 3 parts of the atmosphere. There are methane, carbon dioxide, and oxygen on Mars, and it can be used for internal combustion in the engines. And we will also, in order to do this, we would have to be studying different fields, and one of them is utilizing zirconia cell to convert carbon dioxide into usable oxygen to help support future mission to Mars. And zirconia is going to be used in almost all of the different kinds of ways to get oxygen because it provides oxygen. And we are also thinking about having plants on Mars, but we're not sure because plants would use a lot of water. So we're still debating against whether or not we would have plants on Mars. Because plants can create oxygen for humans, but plants require nitrogen and other things which might be hard to get on Mars, but we're working on that.
Alright, so we're trying to figure out how to protect people from radiation on Mars, but the problem is we might want to build buildings underground to protect from the radiation, but we're not sure what Mars's crust is made out of. Because if it's made out of something like very fine dust, then you can't really dig underground, right, Stevie?
but I think it'd be a practical way of doing it because even like the early humans were able to live in caves in areas that were in environments on Earth that are similar to the environments on Mars, which is like a arid desert-like environment, and a lot of these people were able to exist in these caves and thrive as a civilization. So I think it's a practical and inexpensive way of creating a colony there.
But one of the main problems is that we don't really know what the crust is made out of. Because it could be, if it's made out of ice, actually then we could use the ice for water, for drinking water.
Yeah, but the entire crust probably is not made out of ice.
Oh, yeah, the entire one is not.
So we can live in an area that the crust doesn't have ice underneath, but there's in the region there's ice, so that if we need to for an emergency, we can access it for
I
a
think it
source
would be
of water.
good. I know that there's a Mars lander going there eventually in a while to find out what Mars' crust is made out of, and I think we should. It would be good to use the information from that.
Alright, so I came up with the idea of sending a rocket prior to humans that will contain liquid hydrogen, and that will land on Mars, and when the carbon dioxide comes in contact with the hydrogen, it will create a reaction known as Saboteur's reaction. And what happens is 4 hydrogen molecules combine with a carbon dioxide molecule to create 1 methane molecule and 2 water molecules. So we can use the water as water to hydrate plants, and we can also store it for drinking water or maybe artificial photosynthesis if we need to use that later on if a problem arises. And
also, the water can combine with methane, which is really pretty much natural gas. And so when water and methane combine, you can burn it in a combustion engine, and this will release electricity as well as release water as a byproduct. And then that water byproduct can be used again for astronauts, for plants, or it can go back into the engine to create more electricity. And then also another byproduct of burning methane water is oxygen, and then that oxygen can be used for that.
Up with the idea of having a Roman-style vault underground that are made of bricks from the Martian soil, and this will be the habitat where the humans will coexist, and we'll have multiple vaults that are connected, and it's very efficient and less costly because we will only need to find a source of energy to heat the bricks, and we'll use Martian soil, so we won't need to bring any soil, and we can even make the oven there to bake the bricks, so it will be extremely cost effective instead of having to bring something like a dome or some other large piece of material to bring. So that's what we're going to use for the habitat. Probably going to use methane as a fuel to bake the bricks, because we will get the methane from the reaction I told you about before, where we get the hydrogen molecules and combine it with the carbon dioxide. So we will rely on the methane to bake the bricks.
So the inside of the vaults are going to be covered in polyethylene so that the humans don't get affected by the radiation.
Radiation can't penetrate through it, and heat will be insulated through the soil, so it won't escape. And and also as temporary habitats, while we are setting up the bricks to make the vaults, we'll have some sort of inflatable structures, which will the humans will live inside while they are also making the bricks.
Inflatable structures are made out of polyethylene, and also the plants are going to be kept in plastic tanks, and these tanks are going to be under these